Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jarvis Cocker. With me tonight, I have Stu Wally, and a special guest is Mr. Keith Hackett. You come to Tactical Devils, and tonight we will talk about referees, PGMOL, decisions, VAR, a lot of controversies. So stay tuned, and it will be good. So first of all, good to see you, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Delighted to be back on your show.
Perfect.
Oh, it's great to have you, man. Absolutely brilliant to have you.
Yes, and Stu, how have you been doing? I haven't spoken to you in a couple of days now.
No. I know I've been out having a kickabout tonight, hence my my attire. I've not long got back. Need a haircut. I've just established. That needs sorting. But apart from that, yeah, all good. Delighted we got Keith back on as well. He went down absolutely stormed a couple of weeks ago, and we were getting messages. You know, will Keith come back on? I said, well, we hope so. So thank you very, very much for taking the time out to speak with us again. Questions were coming in throughout the week. So what we wanted to talk about tonight, and I'll start with it, and that is the PGMOL, because once again, they're in the limelight, Keith. Obviously, I'd like you to talk about the Lewis Skelly incident, because you called it 3 weeks ago, whenever it happened. I think we were talking about it on our show.
Yes.
You just let people, I don't think people really understand what the role of the PGMOL is, and what they're there to do, who they are, who does the the employment side of it and all that kind of stuff. I just wondered if you could give us a bit of a breakdown about it, if you wouldn't mind, so that people can really understand what the team are over there.
I'll try and be quick. Effectively, the PGMOL was set up when there was pressure to move from amateur refereeing and make them professional. So in those early days, referees were asked or invited to move into the professional environment. How they did that was to offer them a basic salary plus fees, and for them still to be allowed to do 20% of their working week in their existing businesses. That was done in order to, if you like, ensure that the people who we wanted onto that list didn't say no, because they had very good pensions, either as policemen or school teachers and the like. The PGMOL is actually a separate business. It's on the stock exchange, or it's in Companies House. And it is made up of 3 funding partners. So the money that comes into the PGMOL is from the Premier League, the Football League, and the Football Association. Not exactly in thirds. It's based on a formula about the number of games, etc. Something like that. So in the initial stages, those arrangements were that the actual CEOs of the Premier League, the Football League, and the FA would be the board members, and they would have an independent chairman. And that's how it was formulated. In terms of the person running that organization, that was Philip Don initially for about 18 months, and then I took over. Yeah. And I had autonomy. So the idea was to recruit and retain those referees, to train and educate them, to move into other spheres that amateur referees, if you like, had not moved into. So I introduced sports science, sports psychology, vision science, the communication kits, which are now standard around the world. And in that period of my term in office, I said I was the 21st manager of the Premier League, and that referees would be treated in a similar way to players, i.e., those referees that were in form would get the appointments, and those who didn't do well might effectively lose their professional status. And that did happen. So I did move some referees on. I did demote some referees. I needed that sharpness to be in place. And around me was a small team of referee coaches and a very small admin. And we became the first referees. I remember negotiating that first sponsorship deal. So we became the first referees in the world to be sponsored on its airlines. And then peered into that area of operation a few years down the line. We had the Roy Carroll incident, out of which I did goal line technology, and goal line technology I worked closely with Hawkeye. So the old system is that business is the general manager reporting to a board of directors.
Sure.
Now, discipline, in the MLS deal with all disciplinary matters in terms of players. That's not the case in England. All disciplinary matters come under the banner of the FA. So red cards, yellow cards, there is a system where they can go onto their laptops or iPads and give information about the various aspects of the game in relation to any disciplinary matters.
Yeah. Excellent.
Now moving, so that's the PGMOL. I mean, the way it's moved is, I think, being honest, performances have declined under Mike Riley. I think Howard Webb is struggling to get a change of that oil tanker to get back to top level performances. The accountability seems to have gone. It's almost like putting a finger up to the fans and everybody else in the game. We're right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
Sort of attitude. And I think what highlights this for me is what I was talking about when I last came on the show. And this is the dismissal of the Arsenal player.
Yes.
When you look at that, the referee was wrong. Michael Oliver was wrong to send that player off. VAR was wrong not to come in because the referee had made a clear and obvious error. If I could see it as an ex-referee, an existing referee who should be in top form and in the elite panel should see that. Then what really concerned me, because, within a matter of minutes of that dismissal, I looked at the laws of the game again and said it does not fulfill serious foul play. Serious foul play talks about excessive force. It talks about an element of brutality. There was none of that in that challenge. What amazed me then and really disappointed me was a PGMOL spokesperson came out and said the player had been dismissed for serious foul play. And I've gone, what? And of course, they've transmitted that to the world. And they're wrong in law. I mean, I got a phone call within minutes from Mark Halsey, former Premier League referee, I was his boss. And we had a conversation and we both agreed there was no remit for serious foul play in that challenge. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was very clear that was an horrendous error.
Yeah.
And in an article, I suggested that Michael Oliver should, in fact, take a couple of weeks off.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people see that, and even referees see that as punishment. It's a reflection. It needs a period of reflection to understand and get that person to understand you've made an error. There has to be a level of accountability, but there also has to be some training and development that comes out of every error. Mm. So you discuss that as part of an employer-employee relationship. So what happened was, after that game, Oliver went out to referee at the Bernabeu. I think he had Barcelona.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
And then on the Saturday, he did Ipswich. But what was interesting was, in advance of the normal appointment process, which is on a weekly basis, Webb came out and said, Oliver's got the Merseyside derby. And you suddenly go, why? Why is that announcement? It's almost like saying, I'm telling you, I'm supporting this referee. Well, this is like a manager of a football team who employs a number 9 who keeps missing. And he keeps missing because there's that little bit of extra effort, there's a lack of sharpness. And what you have to do then is create a situation where you have a duty of care towards that referee and train and re-educate. So the old scenario was not a good look for the PGMOL. And interestingly now, I mentioned 5 million turnover, and I've been away from it probably about 10 years. I retired. There were underlying messages coming out, and I suspect where the source was from, that I, in fact, was dismissed. I wasn't. I retired at 65 to take up another role. So after I finished with the PGMOL, I became the Premier League referee ambassador. And for a couple of 3 years, I was running workshops around the country. The current last Companies House statement shows that the budget now is £33 million. So this is not a small amount of money. And, this week I've said, if we've got the very best players in the world playing in our competition, we must have the very best referees. And, I've watched a couple of games in Europe this week, and I'm thinking, that referee ought to be doing 1 or 2 games in our competition.
Yeah.
If they've got 33 million, if I'm going out to a restaurant and I don't get a good meal, I find another restaurant.
Yeah.
And I don't think refereeing should be any different. Clubs do that. They offload players. They bring new players in.
Yeah. So, brilliant insight. I really appreciate that, because I had no idea the PGMOL was generating that kind of income. We knew that Premier League referees were paid handsomely in comparison to your average person who goes out to work every day, but not to that scale of revenue they're bringing in. Difficult question, I don't know, so maybe you can generalize, but where do you think it's all gone wrong? Where do you think the tipping point was between what I would call effective refereeing to really dysfunctional refereeing that we're seeing today on the pitch? It'll be difficult to pinpoint, I know, but I was just wondering where you thought it had all kind of started to go wrong.
As fans out there listening to this program, we all think for a period that the manager of our team is the very best one. And he's the best because our team's running near the top of the division. And we think that the one who's managing the team near the bottom is at risk of losing his job. So for me, it started way back. And I mentioned Mike Riley because I think that was a very poor appointment. I was a coach of Riley, so I knew him inside out. I knew his capabilities. I knew to some degree that he was not one to promote personality or even have a strong referee within his group. He wanted loosely yes men. And so that was the first concern I had. And I made that clear, by the way. I wasn't involved in the appointing process, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I made it clear to the people at the top who made that decision that they got it wrong. So people think I had a chip on my shoulder. I didn't. It in football, you move in stages and you move in over the years and you develop and you get better.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a child and they go to infant school and then primary and then on, you're expecting, or your expectation is that the teachers that they're going to are going to be better or equal to those that have left.
Yeah.
So because I was a pretty hard boss, based on the fact that I was a sales and marketing director, and I lived on the fact that I had to deliver sales. And if I didn't deliver sales, I was out the door. So the principle was that an old boss of mine said, Keith, if you want to be successful in business or successful, surround yourself with successful people. I had a brilliant PA who knew everything and was a sponge that took a bit of pressure in relation to dealing with referees who were unhappy because I hadn't appointed them to the game for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they would go, why have I not been appointed to a game for a couple of weeks? And I go, because remember, my expectation is you deliver every game, not here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
But the classic mistake was I had a squad, a small squad of former referees who were coaches. There were, Paul Durkin. You had Roger Dilks. You had others that had a terrific background as referees. With Roger Dilks was an HR guy, so he knew the law in relation to employment law and all those sort of issues. And the other part of it was the sports scientists. So I had a Professor Matt Weston now, and he developed, we were the first group of referees to have a warm-up process.
Yeah.
Now that's used throughout the. I can remember the Chelsea trainer coming on at the time saying, whose idea is this? And I said, well, it's mine, but it's my sports scientist who suggested, as part of core training and warm-up process, we had to do that. I mean, before that, in my era, when I ran line to people like Jack Taylor and others, they'd have a couple of fags before they went out and refereed a football match. And in fact, the late Harold Hackney from Barnsley would have half a tumbler of whiskey. And he would say, he worked in the mines, he said it was for the chest. Look, so where it's gone wrong is the basis of the decline, because they've allowed referees to extend their career.
Yeah.
Because to some degree through age legislation, but I feel that sometimes when a referee comes off and he's not had a bad game, he's not had a good game, you want a coach there to actually explain and talk through various aspects of that game, but also then to start winning back the confidence. Incidentally, a lot of people thought that because certain referees, even today, certain referees referee the championship game, part of the original agreement with the PGMOL setup was that the Football League, because the Premier League was newly formed, the Football League saying, just a minute, you're going to take all the best referees. As part of that agreement, because they were putting in a substantial amount of money, part of that agreement was the select group referees, SG1 referees, would actually have a minimum of 5 Football League games. And that could be Division 3, 2, 1, whatever. It's different now because they have professional referees in the championship also. They get a base of about 50 grand, I understand, and about a £500 per match fee. That's in the championship. But there are some of those guys in the championship that ought to be knocking on the door of some of the ones that aren't performing. And it should be a little bit like promotion relegation. as you go on. So that's an insight. I think Riley was the catalyst for the decline. And I don't know what the circumstances are, but Howard Webb, who was a really good referee, make no mistake, was an outstanding referee. He's had about 2 years in the job now, and I'm not seeing the impact in any way, shape, or form that I expected. My first point of port of call is this: when a manager comes into a football club, or you get a new managing director in a business, the first thing he does is he reviews the people who he's employed. And then what you do is you have the tough decisions, because before the ship sets out of the harbour into a new world, you actually say, have I got everybody on board that ship that's capable to giving me 100%? And if I thought, no, I'm not going to take a risk, they paid off. And I felt that's not happened. And what they've done is, let me give you an example. Lee Mason, he was never the best referee in the world, right? So eventually, coming towards his end of his career, he gets literally pensioned off. But then they bring him back as VAR. So he's not a great referee. He doesn't hold his position down. He's one to go early. Then they bring him back and say, you can run VAR or be a VAR. He makes a mess of that. They get rid of him. And then 2 weeks ago, I was having a coffee with a friend, and he looked at me and he said, are you aware that Lee Mason is a coach? And I think he's the boss of the coaches at the Premier League. And you go, what? Are you kidding? So I think that it seems to be run like a nightclub. I wouldn't say a nightclub. I think it's being run like a Christmas club.
That was my fear. There's plenty of stories going around, Keith, that managers had this huge respect for you because you took no prisoners. You didn't care who it was, whether it's Verge, Cloughie, or whatever. You put them in the place if you need to be. You weren't obviously hamstrung at that particular time by the Premier League. The Premier League was coming. We all saw it coming, but you weren't hamstrung by it. How much do you think Howard Webb is pandering to the Premier League? I don't want to call him anything else. I don't want to call him, a derogatory term, because I don't think he's that type of person. But how much are they having to pander to them? How much are these managers like Guardiola intimidating referees because they don't have the backbone and the steel that yourself, Graham Poll, that type of era of referee, Dilks in particular, like you were really strong personalities, refereed the game like prison officers, which you had to do back at the time because it was tough. Now you've got, but you and I mean this as well, you refereed as equal men, didn't you? In terms of multi-millionaires, etc. How difficult is it now today, do you think?
Well, let me talk about the Premier League first and the relationship between the PGMOL. I do not think it is any tougher. In fact, I think it's now less tough in relation to the CEO of the Premier League and the PGMOL. And the reason I say that is that, I think people who will see how the Premier League was established and accelerated was led by someone who was pretty tough and pretty straight talking in Richard Scudamore. He was not an easy guy to actually please, but he was a guy who was a straight talker, and he would tell you. Now, he never attempted to interfere in the appointment process. He may have his views, but I think a lot of people fail to understand that he had been a linesman on the Western League. So he'd got some officiating experience as an individual. So I think that when you know, I always remember when I stood up at the conference in Leicester with the owners and CEOs of the businesses, the 20 clubs, and I said, blue sky thinking, I was asked, and I said, look, I want goal line technology. And then they said, well, go out and get it. And the only way I could get it was to work with Dr. Paul Hawkins to get it. And we worked to write in the criteria. So if we look at one example, it is more difficult now.
Yeah, of course.
In my era, I only had 3 cameras. Okay, cup finals and the like. Now there's 22. And at the press of a button, you can actually get an angle, a view, that's not afforded the match official. And that's where the exposure comes. And so in analysing thousands of refereeing decisions, I can assure you that errors are made because the referee's not seen it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Hence the need for VAR. But what we have is when, you know, why do people go to a library to read books when they're studying? Or they want a degree of silence when they're working? Or why when we sit an examination it has to be quiet? It's because one of the key elements of refereeing is concentration. I cannot believe the amount of noise that exists with the VAR and the referee. I think that is a break of the concentration, and I think the relationship from day one of how VAR operates in England with our referees has been flawed and continues to be flawed because I think referees have to be, you know, this is not arrogance. This has to be confidence. I have to say I've made that decision, and you only come in when you can prove that I'm wrong.
Yeah,
right?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
I'm making the decisions. I stand and fall by them. And if I make a big howler, I want you to come in.
Yeah.
And then that referee's got to go to the screen and say, I don't think that's an howler at all. I'm staying with what I've seen.
Yeah.
But what we've got is we've got this distraction. You know, who's refereeing the game? When I listen in to Mike Tuck, I'm thinking this is an absolute joke. Because the guy who's only supposed to intervene on clear and obvious errors is coming in and telling this guy how to referee.
Yes.
He's coming in and saying, that's okay, or, you know, we're leaving. And I'm going, as I've mentioned before, you know, when you're in an aeroplane and you can listen into the pilot, the conversation isn't about how many cups of tea you're going to have or what you're doing next week. You don't need that. All you need is, will you look at the monitor on this one?
Yes, that's it, isn't it?
Plus, the other side of it is, you know, we'll look at goal line we'll now look at the semi-automated system that's coming in. It's badly needed, right? It's definitely needed. But why have the PGMOL and the Premier League, why have they not operate? Why are they not going to operate with the UEFA Adidas system, the UEFA system, the World Cup system? We're all going to get semi-automated system. Everybody's happy with that. But hey, come on, guys! I'm telling you, you're not getting the UEFA system. Full stop. You're getting a system that's been developed by Genius Sports. And go to Company's House and look out Genius Sports.
Yeah, we'll have a look.
And what they're going to do is they're not using Sony cameras, they're using Apple. What really concerns me is what ball are they using? Now, I know it's got to be no Nike.
Mm.
Are they going to be, to make that speedy call at the point the ball is touched, signals a snapshot of where the players are. There's nothing in between in terms of milliseconds that we've got at the moment.
Mm.
The system that's been operating the last 3 years is flawed. Nobody will listen to me, but broadcast speed cameras aren't the 500 frames per second cameras that you use on goal line technology. So the system's coming in, and I'm asking questions already. Is it got a chip in the ball? And they cover it by saying it's got a tracking mechanism. Well, so has the Adidas ball and the system, but it's got a chip in the ball. So
you make a great point about AI, actually, and I never really even considered how it would work. So we know that offside is determined by the player position as the ball is kicked. Now, you mentioned that there's going to be some kind of device or chip in the ball that once that ball's kicked, it's activated.
Mm.
So it then activates, pings the camera to then make that or take the picture.
Yeah, well, what you've got is you've got even more than that. The technology is better than that, because what you've got is you've got AI, and you have 29 points on each player, right? That's giving you a signal 500 times per second.
Jesus Christ!
So the flaw, if you take goal line technology where you required 500 frames per second, 7 cameras, to track the ball, and what we've had in recent years is we've got broadcast cameras running through software. Here, what you've got is you've got AI through not broadcast cameras. There's 12 cameras on a bank in the stadium, right? All calibrated before each game. And what it will produce is an animation. Okay. And the range of improvement in speed is about 30 seconds. I mean, I watched a game last week, and it took the referee 4 minutes and to make an offside call. That, look, I'm not clever, and I just thought that's onside. Why are you looking at it?
Yeah.
And then you wait, and then they confirm what you thought. Now, technology should be seamless.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I'm all for it. If you're in sales, sometimes you have to put a degree of pressure on the individual to work a bit harder. You train him how many calls and all that aspect. It's no different in refereeing. What you need is a bit of pressure, and therefore I think where they've missed out is, I would be saying to the VAR operators, you got 30 seconds. And
that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Now, people say that's almost impossible. Well, let's go to a minute. But the old thing is this, I've been watching a program on test pilots, and the speed at which they have to react when they're gunning down another plane is remarkable. They train for it. And therefore, I'm back to the coaching, I'm back to the training, I'm back to a lack of coaching quality, a lack of training quality, and a lack of leadership and direction is the key issue that's facing us at the moment. And I think part of that is, one, when a referee performs and well, compliment them, give them the confidence. Give them a run of games. But the other side of it is, how can they put, for example, last Friday, Chris Kavanagh refereed at Brighton. Fine. It's a Premier League game. Every Premier League game is important. Every game at the professional level is important.
Yeah.
And I looked at the appointments and I could not believe that the next day is fourth official at Southampton. For me, that's somebody saying, "Oh, he's at Brighton. He can get in a cab and he can go to Southampton."
Yeah.
Huh? We're talking about a professional sport where you prepare. You know, I went to the Olympics and I saw the 100 meters. I saw the preparation, and I also saw the downside of their recovery, how the work they did on recovery. So we're saying you referee a game on a Friday night, you get out of the stadium about 11:30, 12 o'clock, don't worry. Tomorrow, you're going to be fourth official. And what happens at Southampton? The assistant goes down, injured. On comes Chris Kavanagh. Now, I tell you, a 33 million business being run like an ice cream shop.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. We are, believe it or not, Keith, 40 minutes in already, mate.
Right.
You've been absolutely superb.
I'll shut up.
No, don't.
No,
You're here because we want you to talk. The insights again have been absolutely brilliant. Jarvis, have you want to come in on something?
Yeah. I just want to ask Keith a question, because last time you were on the show, you mentioned that you had a vision for VAR involving having a dedicated team of VAR referees. Remember? So,
Yes.
So my question is, giving, you have a lot of ex-referees now, because they're taken out of the game because it goes quick. You have to be in shape. You have to be able to run a lot. And given these constraints, do you think it would be beneficial to involve retired referees in the VAR role as the VAR team, because you have a lot of experience then? So is that your thought?
Yeah. Well, I think that is what Webb is trying to do. I think when we look at two of the guys, Graham Scott and Paul Tierney, more often, well, they're not refereeing now, they're VAR. But what I would say is, yes, it's about the base knowledge, it's about experience, which is good, but then it's about training. It's about recognizing, we have some of the world's best assistant referees because they're trained. They're trained to do that job. They're coached to do that job. And okay, the job has diminished with the introduction of VAR, I'm sad to say. But in reality, they're specialists. And that's what I did. When I was the boss of the PGMOL, I said, we're going to have people who are that's all they're going to do. They're going to be assistant referees. And we make them professional, which we did. The same for VAR operators. And what I would suggest is this. This is about calibration. Calibrating their competence, calibrating how they perform, and recognizing that you create a table, a league table, and you know who your best ones are.
Yeah.
So that when you've got those golden games, that VAR is on that team. Now, I would close Stockley Park.
Yes. Okay.
What might interest people is I'm not one who says everybody should have an office in a business. You can have a shared desk. It's a cost. I think what I would like is the VAR operator. First of all, there's 20 clubs. I'd like the equipment installed in every ground in the Premier League, right? And then the VAR operator is part of the referee team. So let me give you an insight in terms of a pre-match. So a referee, and his team will generally, on the Friday night, stay in a local hotel relatively close. They drive there in their own cars, invariably. Some may fly if they're from the northeast. And so they come together and they'll have dinner. And then in the following morning, they might go for a walk, but they will at the hotel do their pre-match instructions. You know, review the game ahead, discuss what you like, what you expect of them. The referee is motivating that team. I would like the VAR to be present in that.
Yeah.
So then what they do is they get on a bus, a mini bus, and go to the ground. And they arrive at the ground 2 hours before the kickoff. And they'll walk out on the pitch and they'll run through their instructions again. Now what they do is 1 hour 45 minutes before kickoff, they will meet with the security people. The security people being the ground controller and the chief of police that's at the ground. They will receive a lot of information. You know, it used to be, it's different now, we've got the mics, but in my era, you know, if you went to Old Trafford, they say, right, okay, if there's a problem during the match, they of course couldn't speak to me. They didn't want to come to the touchline to speak to me. A blue light would flash behind each goal mouth. So, and then you knew there was a problem. So you discuss security arrangements. You discuss if there's crowd surges, bottles thrown, where the spectators are coming from. And of course, that involvement might be greater if the ground conditions are difficult, but less of a problem now in the Premier League than in my era.
Yeah.
Snow and fog sometimes could be a problem. So then 1 hour before kickoff, the team sheets are exchanged. So into the dressing room come the two captains and either two managers or who the managers delegate, usually the number two and on occasions, and you introduce yourself each other. So it might be, my name's Fred. How do you want to be addressed on the field of play? So the captain becomes a bit of a conduit on the field of play. And then you've got in Europe, it's more intense. In Europe, you've got a countdown clock on the door by the minute.
All right.
And so you have something similar in the Premier League, so that you're gathering in the tunnel, you get out. Now, one of the things that is important is you don't kick off until, you know, the Premier League broadcasted 211 territories through about 45 different sub-television companies. And therefore, the important thing is kickoff time.
Yeah.
You cannot kick off before the scheduled time. So at the side of the pitch, you'll see a guy who's usually Sky or TNT, and he is talking to the assistant referee, and he gives the nod that the game can start. So you've got that particular process.
Because you have seen that a lot, haven't you? Sometimes, sorry, Keith, you have seen that a lot, haven't you? 2 minutes to go until 3 o'clock. Teams are hanging around, the refs waiting, and that's down to specifics on TV.
Yeah. It's an event. You cannot. I mean, you know, sometimes we had guys who did kick off 15 seconds early, and you know, so watches were calibrated and all that went with it. It's easy now. With the communication kits, it's easy. The other side is if you have a major problem, security risk, then of course, which may mean you're taking, you know, we've had these events, haven't we, where spectators have sadly suffered a heart attack or something similar. In that situation, you're in contact with the ground controller and you're then talking about whether you take the players off or not. So that's all part of the process. If you're going to abandon the game, you can't suddenly blow your whistle and say the game's over. You have to give them something like 15 to 20 minutes of notification so that they can get police in position, stewards in position, gates open, and all, for a safe egress of the ground. But all those things are part of the event management that the referee gets involved in.
And people think referees just turn up and blow the whistle. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Got about 13 minutes before you need to go, Keith. So we've got some questions coming from the guys.
Yeah, so but before we go to the question section, I have one question for Keith when it comes to the offside lines. I know we are heading towards what do you call the automated offsides, but we saw in the game lately. Now, Man United played against Fulham. We saw this instance. It was Ahmad who was disallowed because of an offside. When you look at the pictures, it was almost impossible, even for the trained eye, to see where is the line, where is the point of offside. Is it the shoulder, the armpits, the yeah, you know. So for me, it's difficult, but we know it will be automated. But then again, it comes down to what happened in the FA Cup game for Man United and Leicester. And if you see here, there was a goal by Harry Maguire, and it was at least 4 players in offside in this instance. You can look at a goal here and tell me, what do you think? What do you think the referee was thinking in this instance?
Well, first of all, his position is awful. He's given up the run. I want him at this stage on the edge of the penalty area. I mean, it was just amazing.
So you want him to be, because the assistant referee is around here. I don't know if you can see him in this picture.
Let me just clarify that. The assistant referee has to be in line with the second rearmost defender, not the attacker, because that is the point at which a decision is made. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So the assistant referee should be in line with the second rearmost defender. He's lost it completely. So again, under the Prozone system that I operated, if the assistant referee was 1 meter out of line, that would flag up. So the principle here is that what amazes me is that they're taking so long with the technology to get a line drawn.
Yes.
And then we're beginning to lose faith that the line is drawn in the right position. And this is why I've been saying now for 2 years, when UEFA used the semi-automated system and we didn't introduce it within a matter of weeks, I'm pulling my hair out, because the system that assistant referees and the assistant VAR has operated in is flawed, because it's almost like a manual. It's almost like can you remember the days when they put a rule on the screen almost? And on one occasion, it was like, it almost like was at an angle.
Yes.
For me, I'll be blunt, because I think this is where leadership is missing. I would say the game is about goals. And the mentality shift needs to be in the PGMOL. Why should I disallow this goal? Not find a reason to disallow it. So if you look at that first one you sort of showed, you're never going to give offside for that. I don't want offside for that.
No, I agree.
And this is part of the role. What we have to understand here is the laws of the game are under the International Football Association Board, okay? The IFAB are the lawmakers.
Yeah.
The members of the IFAB are the Scottish FA, the Welsh FA, Irish FA, and England, and FIFA. That's all. Spain aren't represented. FIFA represents Spain, Germany, Italy, France. So the principle is that because you're running the best league in the world, allegedly, and you're the guy that's in charge of refereeing, you'd be on the phone with Kalina, who's head of refereeing at FIFA, and say, look, we need to get our heads together here. We need to ensure that our interpretation on offside is benefit of doubt is given to the attacking team.
Yeah, absolutely.
We operated that for 2 years in the infancy of the PGMOL under the leadership then of Philip Don, the first general manager of the PGMOL. And I was the development manager. Philip and I agreed that's how we would operate. Yeah. And we had no problems until FIFA came in and said, you're interpreting that law incorrectly. It's got to stop now.
But in the interview after that game with the Ahmad offside, Howard Webb came in the Sky studio and defended. He said the referee did the right decision according to the rules. But again, I think now you see the linesmen or the assistant referees, they have heavy flags. They don't put it up until they are 100% sure of the offside. And I showed you the FA Cup clip with Harry Maguire. So for me now, I feel maybe the referees are forgetting to ref the game. They are reliant on the technology. And that's maybe one of the reasons why they didn't give an offside on Harry Maguire, because they forgot how to do it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Look, I'm not being clever, but if you read some of my transcripts from about 3 years ago, I would say that what we've got is a group of lazy referees. And when I talk about that aspect of laziness, this is about not just physical laziness, being in the right position at the right time to make the decision. This is mental laziness. This is, if you give somebody the excuse, they'll take it. Don't give them the excuse. You know, this is why I think leadership says, you're the referee, Michael Oliver. Everything that goes off in that game is your control. So when you're walking on the pitch with your VAR and your 2 assistants and 4th official, that's the message you're giving them. I'm the team.
100%.
Do not let me down. And if and have the guts to be able to say you got it wrong. And the old problem I think that Michael Oliver faces is one of a relationship between the VAR, who probably thinks, "Cracky, it's Michael Oliver," you know. let's go through. But I think there are other aspects. I think that, you know, this week we saw a situation. I think it was a week ago when somebody wrote to me and said, "Look, I'm not doubting Craig Pawson. I'm not doubting Craig Pawson, but I have a concern that he's Sheffield born and bred, and he's going to referee Leeds United on Monday night, my team, and Sheffield United at the top of the league, and we're vying for that position. Is this right?" And all I answered was, "This would not happen in my day."
Yes.
You wouldn't have a scenario where a referee in Yorkshire generally would referee a Yorkshire team, although it happened to me once or twice. I mean, in 23 years of refereeing on the Football League and Premier League, I only refereed Leeds United twice. So, because they were Yorkshire. Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, no chance. But what we now have, you know, we have to recognise, however we look at it, you have to recognise Anthony Taylor and Michael Oliver as our 2 best referees.
They do.
Because they're on the elite panel. So as a consequence of that, you then look I'm not questioning Anthony Taylor's integrity 1 minute. What I am saying is, Howard Webb, find some other referees that can actually referee Manchester clubs. So is it fair on Anthony Taylor that this weekend, and I'm not questioning his integrity or his competence, but this weekend he's going to be refereeing Manchester City versus Liverpool?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that is conducive to good refereeing. So I'll go back to when I was the boss. Mike Dean, who lives in the Wirral, was appointed by the Football Association. They appoint to the FA Cup, the FA, not the PGMOL. And they appointed Mike Dean to the final before the semi-finals were being played. And I think they were half hoping that Liverpool won't go through. Liverpool went through, right? And they took him off the game because they felt a level of exposure of that referee in that. So that's how it's changed. And there are subtle changes that I laugh at, because if you look at some of the old programs, it's Keith Hackett, KS Hackett, brackets Sheffield. If you look at your programs now, it's Michael Oliver, and you ain't got a clue from where he comes from, but you know he's from Newcastle.
Yeah, they don't say.
It's not on the program.
It's interesting.
So I do think that the things that the PGMOL have done that actually have not helped refereeing. I'm not questioning, we talk about the integrity, but there's a balance here in terms of the process of going in. And in fairness to Taylor, however you look at it, I think Taylor, when he's had the Manchester clubs, has done reasonably well. But
he's done a bit
look, I can walk from Altrincham to Old Trafford even at my age.
Yeah,
but you don't want to give them an excuse to speculate. And you also have other managers, like other referees. You have Paul Tierney. He's from Wigan. That's
But then we talked briefly about managers, right? In my day, they'd come on television and slam us, right? And I'd slam them back sometimes, not gently, I'd have meetings with them. But it was a level of independence. And then what happened was the LMA suddenly get a chief executive who's very commercially aware. Very, very commercially aware. Make no mistake about that. He's done an absolutely superb job with the LMA. But there's a trade-off, I think. The Premier League pay a lump of money to the LMA.
Right.
So they said to managers, don't shout so much. But, let's look at this week. We had the Leeds United manager. I think they scored a goal in the final seconds of the match.
It was the last kick, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's celebrating. And it's the end of the match. And it gets done by the referee and fourth official. There's got to be compassion. We love the game, referees, it's a disease, isn't it, for all of us? We caught it. There's no cure.
No.
So, if somebody's being passionate, then let them be passionate. Part of the game. But see, what I think's happening is we're getting loads of administrators. We talk about the PGMOL. There's got to be a structure. In my time, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 administrators in the organisation. They're all qualified, sports science, etc. And I think that figure's much higher now. The referees are, by the way, when I talk about 33 million, the referees aren't getting that.
No. It's interesting.
I think there's loads of administrators.
Yeah, that's just it. Keith, it's 10 o'clock. So, and I know you've got a prior engagement. So we have got some questions. Are you okay if I jot them down an email to you and then send them to you? Would you have time?
Well, let's quickly look. Let's try and answer them. Let's try and answer them very quickly.
Absolutely brilliant. So first question's come in then, and this is from Eagle Eye Football. Do you think that the refs and VAR intentionally back each other to ensure they don't look bad? It's a good question.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think there's a relationship problem. I don't think it's dishonest. I think it's got to be honest. I think that conversation we should listen into to what's going off, and then we wouldn't fear that about this relationship issue that I've raised. Let's broadcast it all. Let's operate exactly like rugby, right? Big screen, and let us all hear and understand what's going off. Then we can criticise if it's wrong, but then we might just, with having a little bit more information, might understand the difficulty of what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, I'd agree with that. Eagle Eye Football, hope that's answered your question. Good old Trev Wade loves the show. Question, should referees and VAR be mic'd up? Okay, I think you've kind of just answered this quickly. The mistakes they are making should have consequences. Trev, we just kind of covered that one. Another question here. Dermot Gallagher always seems to back the referees' decisions on Sky's Ref Watch. Is this part of the reasons refs aren't held accountable? It's quite an interesting question.
I smile at some of the answers that Dermot gives. I mean, I just like, please just stick to law and explain it. Explain it honestly. Don't. You know, what really concerned me the other week was that he said he was actually in the VAR room, listening to what was going off. I'm concerned about that. He should be nowhere near it.
Yeah.
And all it does, it reinforces my concern. Look, when I was the boss of the PGMOL, I wanted a referee to explain decisions, because we tried it with the referees and the clubs objected. So I'm very keen about explaining decisions to the public. And that's why I was very happy that Dermot Gallagher would do that job. But I think under the tenure of office of Mike Riley, I think he's been given the answers. And I would suggest to Dermot, he becomes himself and takes his own view independently without trying to appease his mates, if that's what the case is, at Stockley Park or at St George's.
Good old Stockley Park. Thank you for that, Eagle Eye. Hope that answers your question. Got another one coming from Mick Ruby. Liverpool sent off. The Liverpool match slot was sent off, I'm guessing. Can refs give red cards after the game is finished? I was surprised. So I think after the game is finished, Slot said something, didn't he, bollocks of it? And he's been
game, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the first observation I had of that is, why didn't Michael intervene with the guy celebrating the goal in front of the away fans? I didn't think that was helpful. I think he could have helped that. He could blow the whistle, stop it, shout, do everything. And then I'm just concerned about, look, referees have a responsibility that players leave the field of play in a sensible manner. And the referee can issue a red card. But there are times now when I think they're standing in the middle of the pitch, almost waiting to be complimented when there's no way they're going to be complimented. So I suggest that what they should have been doing is heading for the tunnel.
Yeah.
And when Slot comes up and says something slightly derogatory or whatever, as managers do in the heat of the moment, you say to them, we've got an arrangement, 30 minutes after the match, mate, knock on my door and we'll try and sort out what you want answered.
Yes.
And then answer them. So I set that up.
Yes.
I set up that process. I set up the process of the man who was fourth official goes to the tunnel and goes to the top of the tunnel, right? In case there's any fisticuffs in the tunnel, which sometimes happens, and you can prevent. You know, so it's about prevention. And it's you know, we've suddenly seen too much reactive refereeing rather than proactive preventing, which is what we're there for. The copper who says, slow down without even talking to you. or the policeman comes up and says, you know, you're doing about 33, 34. Look, slow down, take your foot off the gas, and you go off and you respect the guy more. Look, I mean, ultimately the responsibility is players acting daft and a bit of passion and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
But I still think that was the key issue. Monitor it and then report on it. But standing around waiting for the manager to come up and have a word with you is, you know, 19 out of 20, they're going to be slightly derogatory.
just a slight chance. Got another question from Trev. Trev says, should the handball rule be rewritten? Are we still as confused with it since the first day it was implemented?
Yeah, I think that handball in 1936 was ball to hand, deliberate, and I think that's where it should be. I think what we've got now is just like acts of simulation, the players have got very clever.
Yes.
We're effectively getting what should be handball, but it's never going to be given handball because the guy's handling the ball with his hand and arm inside his body, if you know what his body silhouette. So I think the law does need a rewrite. I think the word deliberate has to be emphasized substantially, and then we've got to rely on the training and communication to referees in terms of that law interpretation. But we're inconsistent around it.
Totally agree. Got another question here for you, Keith, and we'll wrap it up for you here so you can get off. And that again, should there be a referee? Oh, that's a good one. There should be a referee centre of excellence, and if so, should a referee be sent there if deemed to be underperforming on a regular basis to learn the basics once again?
That's why. I mean, that's why the PGMOL was set up. I helped author the UEFA Referee Convention when I retired, and that convention gives how you train, educate, and develop referees, basically through a mentoring, coaching scheme. And this is why I say at the moment the quality of coaches that have been appointed worry me, because the first thing I would do is I would say, right, I'm going to have 10 coaches, and what they're going to do is they're going to go to the Centre of Excellence of Cycling, Rugby, Athletics. They're going to spend time with them so that they understand fully sports science. I would expect them to perhaps have a mini course on sports science degree level and all that goes with it, so that they fully understand the athletic side of refereeing. Then they spend more time with sports psychologists so that they understand, you know, the speed of reaction. This is the difference between you and I driving on the highway, on country lanes, driving on the motorway, and Lewis Hamilton.
Yes. Yes.
And Lewis Hamilton has to think at 200 miles an hour.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is about very much about a centre of excellence that's studying in detail and delivering in detail a competent match official, stretching them in their areas of weakness. First of all, if they're not physically competent and they can't develop the sprinting speeds, then if they can't get in a 100-meter race, I don't want them as referees.
Yeah, and people forget that. They don't think about that, do they, Keith?
So then the other aspect is this. The reason I introduced the vision scientist was that they could measure the reaction time to see, recognize, think, and act, and how quickly certain referees were good at that and others were not. That offloads some, but it might introduce some new. So that centre of excellence is about, it should be the PGMOL. in real terms with people, not administrators, but people who are excellent at their job. I mean, I once listened in to a talk given by Dave Brailsford when he was in charge of British cycling. And I was amazed because they used equipment to photograph the surface of the zone, the dome in which they were cycling, whatever event. And they photographed the surface to see where the rough bits are, that they could get greater traction.
Right. Okay.
You know, the other side is that, you know, before an airline pilot goes up, he's in a pod that he's not going to crash the plane, but he actually is told to crash it. It does everything through a simulator. And so for me, I would invest in a proper simulator developed where referees are running, temperatures are variable, it's even raining on occasions. They've got a screen in front of them and a game, they've got to make decisions, out of which I've got a technical piece of equipment that's measuring them, their physiology, it's measuring their mentality levels of concentration and their physical aspect. If we want to get better, we have to be better. Why have clubs built, if you like, academies? Because they recognize the importance of recovery and rest and the clear message. The other thing I would also employ is a clinical psychologist. I wouldn't employ them full time, but I'd every referee go under a clinical psychologist, not because they're mad. But I, you know, there are levels of intelligence and levels at which you can absorb the speed of information. How many times do you need to be told how to do something? With some, it might be 10 times before that information is absorbed and acted upon. With others, it might be a couple of times. And so again, it's measuring that individual and that individual's competence. It's much deeper than just refereeing a football match. This is about sports science and improving the standards of officiating. At the moment, it's drifting, and we're no better now as professional referees than in my era when we were a bunch of amateurs turning up for a game and then going back to work the following day.
Yeah.
That is an amazing insight. People were absolutely that encroached in listening to you. We've had no comments in for about the last 5 minutes because they're listening to you intently. Keith, I know you've got another engagement. It's been absolutely brilliant again, mind-blowing, in fact, some of the insights you're sharing with us. I know that next time you're on, Jarvis has got to ask you. He's desperate to understand about Diego Maradona. He's been on about it. I've got to ask him about Maradona. So can we invite you back on in a few weeks' time? Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Sorry,
Let's
Jarvis.
do it again. And we might get the questions answered. I apologise to the listeners. I wasn't ducking the questions.
No. The idea is we you know, the guys, they keep telling us, hearing you speak and share your knowledge about refereeing is phenomenal. They absolutely loves it. The guys love it. So you know, how you're approaching it is exactly how we want it. Really is. It's absolutely brilliant. They've started to, they're back in with the comments now because they were just listening to you. I think what you've spoken about the simulation side of it for referees is, to me, that was fascinating. I'd never even crossed my mind that you could do a simulator for a referee. So things like that are just absolutely brilliant. Sorry, Jarvis.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm grateful that you had the time, Keith, to come on, and I think a lot of people appreciate all your insight. But I just want to know one quick thing before you leave, because when I read up about you, you have an amazing history as a manager. As a Wikipedia told me that you were the linesman in the 1979 FA Cup final.
Yes.
And you were the assistant referee in 1981, the FA Cup semi-final between Spurs and City. You've been huge games, the Olympics, 88, Euros.
Yes.
So out of all of these games, were you ever nervous before going on the pitch? Did you feel a little bit anxious or because of the pressure?
No, what I did was is how you deal with pressure. So let me tell you that one of the things that I used to do was about 10 minutes before I went on, I would have a shave.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Nothing to do with ego. I just sit there and just find something to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So it would be very much in that era of relaxing, and I think I look forward to I'm a fan of the game. I mean, I'm still involved, president of a club and president of a grassroots league. I love the game, and when I look back on my career, when you're on the same field as people like Wright and Smith and Dalglish,
Don't say Alan Sunderland.
I mean, like you just like you think, how lucky am I? And I think it's about understanding and respecting that you're there to facilitate a game of football, and fans haven't come along to see you referee, but I also recognise the passion that goes on for years. I answered somebody today that 3 days before I was refereeing a semi-final at Aston Villa, they changed the goalpost in relation to denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. The law interpretation was changed because we were informed we were interpreting that law incorrectly. And on the Sunday, right, I sent off Tony Gale. There's
West Ham.
Yeah, there's children of fans of West Ham that never saw that, but still have a go at me. And I smile every time. They even, my column in the Telegraph, when I write in the Telegraph, they come back and everybody has to go, what right have you to say because you sent off Tony Gale? And I want to explain every time that the reason I'm happy to communicate about law interpretation and refereeing is because the FA that weekend totally and utterly exposed me to having to make a decision that the previous week I wouldn't have even I'd have given a free kick, but I wouldn't have even yellow carded Tony Gale.
Yeah,
Tony Gale.
So sometimes this is why leadership direction is a situation that has to be delivered by Howard Webb. Howard Webb, like the referee in a football match, is the conductor, and you have the heartbeat of the game. You set the tone of that game. If you allow it to go out of hand, it'll be a war.
Yeah.
What you are is a referee that's, if I liken it to a kettle, you want the bubbles to be showing because that's when you've got a really intense game. If it suddenly turns to steam, it's out of control. So you're conducting the pace of the game. And lots of our referees fail to understand when they need to put the foot on the ball.
Yes.
Players getting frustrated.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, totally.
And that's when you slow it down. You just slow it down and go, I want it here, I want it there. I'm going on. I'm going.
No. That's again absolutely brilliant. The guys are loving it. They've come to life again. They're absolutely loving it. We got next time we have you on, Keith. There'll be loads more questions coming in. There's a great question from Jordan. Who's the hardest player you've ever refereed? That type of thing. I want to know loads of stuff. But my biggest question to you is: were you on the side in '79 when Alan Sunderland scored? And if you were, why didn't you flag him offside? It wasn't, by the way. But why didn't you?
Listen, the thing that referees think negatively all the time about their own performance. The thing that I remember most is if anybody's got an eagle eye and they watch the video of that match, they will see me suddenly coming to life, giving a throw-in decision. It was the right decision, but the problem was with a sweaty palm of the hand, the flag went flying down the line, left my hand, and then I had the, if you like, embarrassment of having to recover it at some point. It was almost like it's not happened.
No,
I've got to go and get it.
That game was my first. I was 9 that year, and my favourite ever FA Cup final goal was in that game. Samir McIlroy. That's my favourite ever FA Cup final goal.
I remember that. I remember more Ricky Viers. Of course, mentioned that in '81.
Were you in that game? Were you refereeing that game? Were you a part?
Yeah, I refereed that. I refereed both. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that time was. But those were football was simple back then, wasn't it? It was absolutely brilliant. But Keith, thanks again. You've been absolutely phenomenal. You really have. Thank you, guys. See you soon, Keith. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, then there were 2 of us.
Once again, I'm absolutely lost for words. I'm lost for words, man. It's been, guys, open the Devilish Tacticos room. You've enjoyed that. Thoroughly enjoyed it because I know myself, and well, I can only speak for myself on this one. But I'm even more in awe than I was last time, Keith. With some of the information he's just given to us. So.
If only we had more time, that's time is on the essence. We should have had a 5-hour podcast with Keith Hackett.
Yeah, he messaged me at about 10 to 9 saying that Sky TV had been in touch with him. They need to ask him a few things. So that's the only reason he's only left us for Sky Television, gents and ladies. So,
he kept them waiting for us. So
he kept them waiting for us. Absolutely brilliant. A good 20 odd minutes. So thank you again, mate. Guys, we'll try and ask him back on in a few weeks' time because he's absolutely top drawer. What we should try and do, Jarvis, is try and get Howard Webb on and see if we can reach out to Howard Webb and see if he'll come on and
that will be. Or we could have like a
Keith and Howard.
Keith and Howard, PGMOL giants.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, when you realise that Keith was so instrumental in shaping refereeing as we see it today, but on the flip side, would absolutely strangle 90% of the referees that we have refereeing in the Premier League today. Wouldn't have happened on his watch. And
in defense of the current referees, the game has evolved. Things go a lot quicker. And
he made a great statement.
I also think back in the days, it was easier now talking with the players, explaining to them, like instructing them. But now you have players from all over the world speaking all different languages. So I think it's harder to get to know the players in a real way and get them to calm down. So the game has changed in so many ways. So maybe we are hypercritical to the current regime in a way, but things can improve, and especially when it comes to technology. He mentioned having a training. Now we have AR or VR glasses, I believe, that the players can use
that's right.
learn how to scout when you play the game and simulate. So even if you're injured, you can play 100 games a week in your mind. So there is way of improvement. I know, for example, in Norway they use it a lot. Martin Ødegaard, for example, spends a lot of time with the VAR glasses on his head, simulating, learning to scout how to play the game. So if we can implement this for the referees, that will be fantastic, because I think it's about, as Keith mentioned, it's about being quick enough to fully understand what's going on.
The way that he spoke about the mentality side, didn't he? Your peripheral vision, your quick thinking, your millisecond thinking.
Yes.
And then to cap it all, he's saying, if you can't compete in 100 meters race, I don't want you anywhere there. And he's right. Thierry Henry, 100 meters.
Not to mention any name. Some of the referees are a little bit too, what do you call it, corpulent.
These players need to do 100 meters.
Greatest shape.
In 11 seconds. So to have that as well, that really insight. So, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed that, because I thought last.
But we're not done yet. We have 10 more minutes.
We're not
finished yet. So people stay tuned.
No, we're not finished. What I was thinking was the way when we had Keith on last time, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Tonight, I'm bordering on phenomenal, because I was listening and thinking, and he's telling me stuff, and I'm thinking, I can't wait to go out at the weekend. Can't wait to go out and play again at the weekend. I had training tonight, rush back, for Keith, and then I'm thinking to myself, I can't wait to go and kick a ball around. I've got that fizz in me now, right now. I just want to go.
Inspired. You feel inspired.
Yeah, I want to go out and play.
Yes.
But he's got such a way with him, though, hasn't he, Jarvis? He's got a way of, and Trevor put it absolutely brilliantly. He's got a way of explaining it and making you feel like you're in the middle with him and out there with him. And it's just absolutely, for me, phenomenal. And as we said last time when we turned the show off, I should tell you this devilish tactico. Me and Jarvis were giddy the last time we had Keith on, because we had a little chat after each show, and Jarvis was saying, Maradona, he was on the pitch with Maradona. I mean, my God. And we were talking and we were reminiscing about the players that he's refereed. R9, the original R9. Do you know what I mean? Socrates, Adair, Batistuta, Kempes.
Tom Buston, the Euros 88, the Netherlands, the Dutch team that won, Ruud Gullit, Frank Rijkaard, all of those legends. Franco Baresi, he refereed Franco Baresi, one of the greatest centre backs of all time.
Yeah. He's not interested in Messi, is he, Keith? Messi, go away. Couldn't take the pitch with Franco Baresi. Couldn't take the pitch with Franco Baresi. Carlton Palmer, No, but he's done all of that, and he makes a great point, doesn't he, about only ever refereeing Leeds twice in his whole career.
Rico, big up.
It was absolutely brilliant to hear, and I'm buzzing, Jarvis. I'm buzzing
too. But let's take it down a notch and go back to Man United. And by the way, the devilish tactic goes. I see a lot of people tuning in. When the show ends, go back and watch the beginning of the show when Keith Hackett was on. He unfortunately had to go a little bit early because he had an interview with Sky. So it's just the way it is, But he stayed on for 1 hour, 20 minutes. So that's great. 90 people watching at the moment on X and YouTube. So if you haven't, smash the like. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. We are on the way to 1,000 subscribers to get fully monetized. So that's just the way it is. Stu, there's some things that been on the Man United media last couple of days. We have to address it. We have to address it. It's about the financial part of the club and Ineos Glazers. I bet that everyone in the chat has read up about it, heard all the opinions from all the other pundits. So I'm not gonna sum it up again. But Stu, what's your opinion on the current events? What's going on? Because we hear now they're talking about boycotting the Arsenal game, emptying the stands. The 58s are going out really hard now. We see Mark Goldbridge collaborating with all the other big YouTubers.
I've seen it.
Getting traction. The Glazers out movement is finally getting traction.
Do you know something, Jarvis? Years and years and years ago, when it all happened, there's nothing we could have done about it. Back in 2005, the club was floated on the stock exchange, and the rules are that you can steadily buy up shares. You buy up to 92% or something along those lines, and the rest is a for sale. I know this because I was a shareholder of Manchester United, and so was Michael Bryan, because to own a part of the club at that particular time was absolutely brilliant. We didn't make any money out of it, really, or maybe 150, 200 quid. But that's not what it was about, Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
People bought shares, like myself, like you, like everybody else, to want to own a part of the club.
Yes.
You want to feel part of Manchester United. Fuck a brick in the wall. Who cares? You can have a brick in the wall with your name on it. Who gives a damn? We owned a piece of the club, and it meant something. You had a share certificate and everything, and it meant a lot. And then all of a sudden, and a lot of people do kind of consider issues with Sir Alex at the time, and the Irish contingent that owned a good chunk of the club at the time, and they decided to sell that chunk off, about £265 million worth. The Glazers snapped that up, and then all of a sudden, Malcolm Glazer came in and started buying chunks of the club. So he's paying over the odds for the club that you do. That's what you do, because people aren't going to sell the shares if they're not making money. That's the idea of it. And all of a sudden, he makes the final purchases, and then the compulsory options come in. So people like myself and other shareholders, mini shareholders, were then forced on the compulsory side, and that's it. It's, they put supposedly 200. I mean, there's two stories. A, they put $200 million of their own money in it and leveraged the rest, or they didn't put any money in it and leveraged everything. Either way, they pulled off the heist of Father Time, in my opinion. Okay, because at the time Manchester United was really pushing strong. Fergie got the team rolling. We were really, really strong at that particular time. The 90s, 2000s were our finest years. And they were making good money. They were still pumping money into the club at that particular time. Yeah. But they settled this with, I think it was about £350 million or £500 million of debt at that particular time. So it was a lot. And they were on specific notes, PIK notes, which were hugely saddled with interest, but we all know that story.
Yes. Yep.
And where we are today with modern football is that not just us, but clubs around the world are paying a bunch of posers 300 grand a week. It isn't just Manchester United, it's Liverpool, it's Chelsea, it's City, it's Juventus, it's everybody who's paying these people millions of pounds. And the global scale of football's got so bad now. When Ronaldo signed a $168 million contract per year. Now you can go and break that down for whatever you like. You can go and break that down for whatever you like. Because of what he's doing at Saudi Arabia. God only knows what mess is being paid. Nobody will tell you, because there's certain limitations in the Jarvis, I understand, with the MLS. But we all know that's bullshit, and he's getting paid way over that. We know all of this.
And not even mentioning sponsorship deals and all of that. Yeah.
Players like John Duran going out and earning 400 grand a week. We all know what's going on in football, and we can't compete. You can't. A billionaire can no longer compete who's got $3 billion, $4 billion, which is what the Glazers are worth. It's coming to the stage where a £20 billion businessman in Sir Jim Ratcliffe is having to balance his books because his major businesses are suffering losses. So he's got to balance his books. He's looking at cancelling a €6.5 million a deal with New Zealand Rugby. That's fuck all in football. £3.5 million that we're paying for Tottenham. It's F all. So £3.5 million is not going to do anything for us a year. But he's looking at doing this right now because we are in the biggest black hole this club has ever been, and there's zero way out, Jarvis. There's zero way out of this black hole right now. We are so far down that if I was in a well, Jarvis, and I shouted up to you, and you were standing over the well looking down, you wouldn't hear me. We're so so far down in
Far
this.
apart, yes. Yeah.
It's horrible. What was our latest? Is it 1.2 billion combined in debt? That's the money of the debt that we owe on the club, plus 300 million, something along those lines in transfers.
It's at least past a billion, but yeah, maybe it's more.
Yeah. So it's
Maybe
maybe 1.2 bill, something like
because
that.
a lot of sensationalist media, they operate with dollars, they operate with pounds, they operate.
That's it. It's all currency
I
fluctuations.
think it's £1 billion approximately. So
if it's £1 billion,
yeah,
you have to then look at Sir Ratcliffe, Sir Jim. He put in 1.4, and yet we're still £1 billion in debt, and he's paid the Glazers 1.4. Now, you can't determine who runs a business job. It's me and you are both business owners. We know this. Somebody couldn't kick you out, because you don't have a board. We don't have a board. Well, we have a board of directors, but we don't have shareholders, so they're not going to kick us out. But I think the Premier League have got a duty of care to turn around and say enough's enough at Manchester United. We are the jewel in the crown of the Premier League. I don't care what anyone says. We are. Manchester United, the jewel in the crown of the Premier League, and we are verging on going bankrupt. I really believe we are. I desperately believe we are. Cutting 200 jobs, extra jobs, Jarvis, isn't going to save this football club. We've got to put money back in. We have to pay
the Glazers £700 million.
There you go.
Divided by 6 leaches. So I think they got about
say they got 100 million.
80, yeah.
So we have got to find somewhere a way of clawing out of this problem. Otherwise, we're never going to compete again. We won't do it, because I always say to you, Jarvis, if you get 5 yards in front of me, I mean you're the same pace, I'm never clawing it back. I'm never getting that 5 yards back. We are never going to catch Liverpool. We are never going to catch City. We are never going to catch Aston Villa, Notts Forest. At this rate, at this current rate, we're not catching these teams, because me and you sat on streams for the past 8 weeks, Jarvis, and I've said to you, I said, listen, mate, we win these 2 games. Okay, now we go from 15th to 8th. Yep. That's how tight it is. And we still haven't moved. We have been in 13th, 14th, and 15th for how many weeks now?
Yeah.
And that should tell you that the analogy that we're talking about now, that's the problem we're going to have moving forward. Now, I said 8 years, didn't I, before we even won the league? I would maybe even change that to a decade before we can actually compete.
But Stu, lately now I feel like it's a lot of doom and gloom.
I'm sorry about that, but the truth is the truth.
It's a lot of doom and gloom in the Man United fan base at the moment, and we are not happy with the ownership. The Glazers, Ineos, and the debt is holding us down, and we are struggling. We are really struggling as a club, but it didn't come as a surprise. We know this. People who have been paying attention has been knowing this for years and years, and suddenly now everything just happened, and people are starting to realize what's going on. But is it too late? Can we turn it around? That's the question.
It's a great question. It's a great question, because I've always been really positive, pal. If you said to me, Stu, the debt, and I said, well, businesses service debt all the time. And then I make examples, don't know of businesses that service debt. I mean, tomorrow in your own business, you might look at your cash flow and think, it's not as where as I need to be. I look at my X column, I've got X, Y, and Z that's got to come in, but I can't see it coming in for 60 days. I could do with a bit of a cash flow. You go to your bank, you get a business loan, debt.
Yep.
That's it. And then you service that debt. Manchester United, I don't know if we can service our debt anymore, because I read somewhere today, and I could be completely wrong, and Rishmano might be able to tell us, that if we hadn't had this extra cash injection a couple of months ago or weeks ago than what it was from Sir Jim, we could have been left with 15 million cash flow. You can't operate on that type of cash flow at Manchester United. And again, You know, all these trade-offs we're hearing right now about 200 redundancies and this and that. The club has to do that to survive. It's that simple, whether we like it as supporters or not. I don't want to see any family, irrespective of who they are, and you know, people out of work. It's hard for people that don't have any work. They're scared. What's going to be happening? Where's the next pound note coming from? We don't want to see these people out of work. But this company that we are, this club, has been absolutely pounded with a sledgehammer for years from these guys, and we're just at rock bottom. So whatever the 58 are planning, I think is a good thing. I think, and I'm going to give Goldbridge a bit of credit here, and I wouldn't normally do that, you know, but I think what he's doing with the really big creators, trying to spread awareness, trying to show awareness is great, providing they're doing it for the sake of the club and not for the sake of their back pocket. Because everything that's coming out of this club at the moment, it isn't toxic anymore. It's scary.
Yeah.
Forget the toxicity. Forget what's happening on the pitch.
Yeah, we are starting to realize.
Yeah,
our eyes are open now.
Our eyes are really open.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Sky Sports today, Sky Sports News, and I'm listening to the reporter saying, Mr. Glazer, are you going to sell? No. I'm just going to meet with the president, or whatever he said, but are you going to sell? No. And I want to rip his fucking ugly face off. I want to tear his head off his shoulders.
Yeah.
I really do. And I want to get his little ponytail and use it as a fucking whatever it is and lob it.
You're not condoning violence, by the way.
No, I'm not condoning. No, by the way, I'm not condoning violence, but I want to do that. Now, I've never felt that way before, Jarvis, but today I did.
I feel the same. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's just anger that I didn't realize I had inside of me until today. I'd have just, you know. Anyway, look, sorry, YouTube algorithm. Don't whatever you do causes problems, because that's just raw emotion. I very rarely, unless I'm playing football, Jarvis, experience raw emotion.
Yeah.
Of hatred, of anger, and I felt it today, buddy.
But the thing is, I've been having this feeling for a lot of years. You know, I've been fighting for getting the Glazers out, and you know, I've been a part of United Wheel Therapy with Noradin. We are a protest channel, always talking directly against the Glazers and Ineos, and Noradin is been calling it out for years now. So for me, I felt angry, but now I'm just like, finally people are getting it, you know. But it's been so obvious for so many years. But I really hope that people are taking this serious now, and that we can build on this momentum and actually do something. Because I think a lot of like the season ticket holders, not calling them out, but a lot of them are frustrated because of the rise of prices on the season tickets, because now it affects them, not only result and bad performances on the pitch, but it affects their own pockets. And do you think that is maybe one of the reasons why there is a outrage at the moment?
Well, I spoke to my son about the potential rise that's coming in the season ticket from. We'll have to renew ours in May. I have to renew it in May. The season doesn't start till August, but I've got to renew it in May. I'll be getting my prices come through anytime, really, now over the next week or two. And I don't know what I want to do. I love the fact that Jakey wants to go. And I'm sad for him that he can't go in an era where, when I first started going with my uncle, where it wasn't particularly safe, but it was just calm, it was fun, it was exciting. And now it's all about money. It wasn't about money at the time. It is. Everything's about money now. You know, you could afford some chips and you could afford a drink in the stadium. Now you can't afford a drink in the stadium because you've got to pay £66 a ticket each. And then you've got to then go and pay £8 for a hot dog or whatever it is. You know, it's just ridiculous for a man who saved up hard.
And by the way, stay away from the chicken.
Yeah, stay away from the chicken, definitely. But you saved up and you've got your 8-year-old, 9-year-old, Daddy, can I have You can't say no to them. You shouldn't say no to them because you can't afford to do it. So you have to make provisions as a parent. And I'm so sad with the way that it's going. I'm so sad that, and I've been talking about this for years, Jarvis, you know I have. I'm so sad that players are allowed to dictate what they want to, what they want paying, and they'll play when I feel like playing because I can't be bothered today. So I'm not going to turn up. I'm sick of it, and I'm sick of seeing kids stand outside in the freezing cold at Carrington, and these players won't even get out of the car anymore. They sit in the car and they sign autographs out of the car window. You can't even be bothered to get out of the car to a little fan, to somebody who adores you. You can't be bothered. You sit in your car, wind your window down. It's all bollocks, Jarvis. I don't want people going to Carrington and lording over these idiots anymore. I really don't. My little nephew, he's only 12, and he said to me, Dad, can we, Dad, Uncle Stuart, can we go to Old Trafford? I took him a few weeks ago, and he said, can we go and watch the players? And I'm watching these players come in, and they stroll in, with their fucking headphones on and their fancy hairstyles, their stupid Louis Vuitton bags, and all of this. And half of them don't even acknowledge the kids that are waiting for them. It could be pissing down with rain, it could be sun. They don't care. They stroll off, and they just don't give a damn anymore. And I'm watching the club that I love, that I supported all my life since I was a 7-year-old boy, disintegrate now in front of my eyes.
It will never come back that way.
No, I don't know.
That's a dead era. It will never come back in the way it used to be. I don't
want to be a part of the club anymore. I just don't want to be a part of it. But yet, horribly, when it comes to match day, I'm mega excited. Even when we lose, I know we're going to lose. I'm still looking forward to Saturday lunchtime against Everton. We'll lose the game because I just can't see us winning. But I shouldn't be excited about it, but I will be. And there's the problem. It has to happen. It's got to happen now.
What do you think about this? Now we see the 58s are starting the campaign, empty the stadium. Man United Arsenal game, 9th of March. Do you think it will be a reality? Do you think the fans actually can stay away? Is it possible to empty the stadium?
There's going to be a lot of pushback.
We've seen it from others. As we saw AC Milan, I saw a lot of people drawing parallels.
Yeah, there's going to be a dilemma for season ticket holders on that day. Because as a season ticket holder, you have to either sell your ticket, trade your ticket, i.e. donate it back to the club, move your ticket onto a member, but you have to have your season ticket scanned if you don't do any of those. And if you don't scan your season ticket, there'll be a black mark against you.
They can go to the game 5 minutes early and just leave.
They can, but I promise you now, they will target season ticket holders.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I saw just a lot of Rushmano. I'm not sure if it was the plan to the 58s. I think they're just with the protest, but yes,
and that will happen. They will penalise season ticket holders. I think we spoke, didn't we, a few weeks ago, that they don't want season ticket holders anymore anyway. They want fans that are willing to pay 166 quid, 100 quid, 200 quid, and that type of thing. So, I mean, it's going to be a real problem. I listened to the 1958 on a couple of shows. I think the guy spoke really, really well about the reasoning behind the protest, boycott, whatever we want to call it. What I don't want to see, I don't want to see any aggression. I don't want to see people getting hurt. I don't want to see the club broken into, as it was on the last when the Liverpool game, for example, was suspended because we will get hit with a hefty fine. Okay,
Yes.
maybe the points deduction. People protest.
Or maybe we'll be forced to play with no
closed doors, no fans for
doors.
again.
Yeah, no fans.
Yeah, but again, season ticket holders will get punished for that. They will find a way to punish us. So I think what the 1958 are planning to do is absolutely on point.
Yeah, but we should fight for our principles. You know,
Yeah,
it's
totally
it's
agree.
worth
Please do it,
everything at the moment. We are going
I just
down.
want it to be peaceful and safe. I don't want anybody hurt on the day, and I just would like it peaceful. That's all I want. My son will be there. Jakey's going up to protest. He's going up. He's going up on the 9th. But it's the right time. Fans are turning against this club really, really strongly. They're really turning against this club now. But the owners, they just seem fixated on F-all.
But are we at the stage where the owners need to come out and
somebody's got to speak,
talk with the fans? Because it's like a pressure boiler at the moment, and it's about to burst.
Yeah, somebody's got to speak. Yeah,
because as Elite Ball says, non-violent elements to. Yeah, we all pray for the protest to be non-violent, but if the pressure goes on and the aggression, you talked about how angry you were, you almost feel hate for the Glazers. I think a lot of people actually feel real hate, and you know, I don't wish anyone malice and hurtful things, but when it comes to the Glazers, I think a lot of them are not happy. They are willing to go a little bit further than a normal person.
They are.
Yes.
So I you know, we need sensibility out there, but we need this. You know, Sky Sports, Talk Sports, ESPN, whoever it is, you need to be absolutely insistent that somebody speaks from the club before the 9th. You know, something happens. Somebody comes and addresses the supporters, because you're absolutely right. It's like a volcano, this is, and it's going to be a nasty eruption when it erupts. We need to keep the volcano from erupting. But the thing is, Jarvis, I don't know, and the Tactico, Devilish Tacticos, I don't think any of us really know what to do.
No, but at least if you are in the Manchester area, I would recommend you to go to the protest with the 1958s. They have announced a protest for Manchester United fans about the ownership of the club. It will take place at 9th of March. Rushmano will go. A lot of people will go and stay peaceful but protest. You know, it's our right. It's the freedom of speech. We are allowed to protest as fans, because what is going on at the moment is not a good thing. You know, they are ruining our club, and we should fight for what we love.
I mean, if you are in Saudi Arabia right now, or if you are somebody who's got really, really deep pockets, try your hand and buy the club. Try your hand and bid for the club. They don't care, Trev. You're absolutely.
If I was Sheikh Yassim at the moment, I would go with the 58 and protest. I will roll in my Rolls Royce with the other sheikhs and dress in green and gold and protest with them.
Jarvis, I would fund it. If I was Sheikh Yassim, I'd fund it as well. You're absolutely right. I would do this. I would go in march with us as fans. I would fund it. If I'm Sheikh Yassim now, I'm funding it. Yeah. What do you need from me? Because I'm going to help you do this. And if I take stewardship of the club, then I'm going to do this, and this, and I will do it within 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. This will be done. The debt gone in 48 hours, gone, and I will prove it to you. I will go on MUTV or Sky Sports, and I will prove it to you. The debt's gone. We will do this, and this. I think, Jarvis, you're absolutely brilliant. I would love for him to do something. I would love for anyone to do something. It's just awful what's happening to the club that we love.
It is.
It's Gary Neville's 50th birthday today, right? People don't like Gary Neville, I get that, but Brian Robson sent him a framed shirt with one of my favourite ever shirts, the Sharp one, 1985, with the white little cuffs on the shirt. A beautiful shirt. Robson, he must be absolutely horrified That's why I was bringing it up. He must be horrified to see what's going on at the club.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of the old players must be horrified because the club is not the one that they left years ago. It's changed. And we also know this. By the way, did you see read the Varane interview yesterday?
I missed it. I missed it, unfortunately, and I haven't been able to catch up with it. So you'd have to give me some snippets. But I heard he was quite vocal.
It was quite vocal. I don't know if it was. It felt like it has a kind of a grudge against Ten Hag.
But
especially Ten Hag.
Yeah,
he said a lot of things about lack of structure, and he was surprised that Ten Hag was staying after the FA Cup final because he believed that the squad has lost faith in the manager. So if the players felt like this, it baffles me that Ten Hag stayed in a way, because there was a time and a time frame there that they could have sacked Ten Hag.
See, I agree with you on that one, because we've established now £15 million, including Ashworth. £15 million. I mean, for Jesus Christ, £15 million. What are we doing? What are we doing? But I'm also, in a way, I'm very glad they didn't fire him, because I don't like player power anyway. I absolutely detest player power. Somewhere along the line, you've got to draw the line and say, you can do what you like, but you're employed to play football for this club. If you don't give your utmost, you're going to go. Not just the gaffer, but you're going to go. But we don't do that in football, do we? Modern football in all through its history hasn't allowed players to be moved on. It's always the manager that takes the foot. But we've all seen since the late 2000s player power start to show up. John Obi Mikel, we spoke about him last week, Jarvis. That's a great example of a player, signing a contract and then not doing it. Roy Keane himself did it.
He did us dirty. Yes, he did.
Roy Keane himself did it at Blackburn. Decided not to go. Decided to go to Manchester United. Great move for us. But all these players have done it. They've all made this kind of choice, and they're making this choice because
Anthony went on a protest when Ajax didn't want to sell him.
Correct, and we allow them to do. Yes, we allow them to do.
And we were cheering him on.
Yeah, Rojo did it when Sporting went to sell him. He went on to, but we cheer. We do. We're so fixated and fickle as football fans. But it's got worse. It's player power has got absolutely worse. There's only really one in memory, and that's our good old mate Sancho, who's absolutely fucked himself over because he's, the Chelsea fans don't like him, do they?
We talked about it on Monday on Jarvis's Corner. I just want to say to Rich, Varane just said what was common knowledge.
Yes.
In a way, I agree, but it's good to get the confirmation from a player, because I don't trust the British media, especially when it comes to this Ten Hag in or out debate, because a lot of them were 100% sure that Ten Hag was going to be sacked, and it didn't. So it told me that they were just waffling and they were their imagination, and they were just putting two and two together and drew a conclusion that wasn't true. So in a way, it's good to hear it from a player and get it confirmed. And what Varane said is he criticized Ten Hag for his rigid system. Varane, he felt that Ten Hag's tactics were too strict. He limited players' ability to adapt on the pitch, and they didn't have the freedom as he had, for example, at Madrid. So, and we all knew this, but do you think it's a player's privilege to whine about a manager being rigid?
I find that a fucking excuse, Jarvis. Yeah. I find that a real excuse, an excuse of embarrassment if I'm Varane. For me, it's just, you've played the game, dude. You know the game. You listen to your gaffer and you adapt. See, I read somewhere the other day, or somebody was speaking, about players, they just can't seem to adapt to the 3-4-3. It's because they're fucking lazy. They don't want to adapt. You know as well as I do, Jarvis, right? Now, if I came over to Norway, which I couldn't go in February, unfortunately, because I had, as you all know, my mum. But a couple of months ago, Jarvis actually sent me a video, bit of a funny one. Anyway, he's in his snowplow and he's singing away, laughing away, you know, but he's driving this fucking snowplow, right? It's a big lorry, big fucking snowplow. And I'm thinking to myself, how primitive are we in the UK, right? Because I couldn't do that. I couldn't just get into a truck.
It's a wheel loader, a big one.
But yeah, but my point being, you do this. Now, you could teach me to do that, and I would learn that skill eventually, and I would do it. So my point being is footballers can do the same. I defy anyone to tell me, and I would argue forever on this point that a footballer can't learn to play in a 3-4-3 system. He can. He's just choosing not to. Yeah. And until we understand that and really give the players the accountability issue, we're just going to let them get away with it scot-free. So,
yeah, I'm just going to say, Stu, what worries me about this, because after I read the Varane interview, because he talked about this with the dressing room disconnect, you know, that the Ten Hag's method wasn't he was too rigid and they lacked freedom and he was stubborn. We all know this. But now, if you can draw parallels to Amorim, and you see Amorim now, he said, "I'm keeping my 3-4-3. This is how we are playing."
Good. I like that.
If you try to predict the future now with this squad of players, how do you think they will react? Because results aren't great under Amorim. We heard some rumors weeks ago. So how do you see this play itself through? Could we see a division in the group, and we will have players that's Amorim players and players that's not playing for the manager? Will we see player power again?
Well, there's a couple of things about player power as well. There's a couple of things about players as well, right? The Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho situation, years ago, players would have dealt with that themselves. It wouldn't have got to the manager. It wouldn't have got anywhere else. The players would have dealt with it themselves. So, Roy Keane or whoever would have got Rashford to one side and said, "Listen, Sunshine, you either pull your finger out or I'm going to tell the gaffer, you're gone. I'm going to get rid of you. You are going to play football for Manchester United at the level that I want you to play, because I'm the club captain and you play for me on that pitch." And that's how it is. That would go around. But you are dealing with players like Schmeichel, Neville, Giggs, who had that mentality anyway. They were winners. I don't see winners in our current Manchester United team.
No.
So if you, as a human being, as a man, by the way, or a woman, but as a man, as part of a team, and you start crying because the manager says, "Oh, I want you to do this," but I don't want to do that, Gaffer. I want to do this. But I'm telling you to do this, but Gaffer, I want to do it this way. I'm telling you, this is the way you're going to play. If you don't play that way, you're not in my starting 11. And I'm going to play Collier. Or I'm going to play Obi Martin. Or I'm going to play Heaven. I'm going to do this, and you're not going to play. Well, I need somebody like that now. I need Bruno Fernandes to turn around and start being the captain that he's supposed to be. Now, I pay no attention to my skipper on the pitch anyway, although I'm captain now. Nobody pays any attention to me. Not that I don't think they've ever paid any attention to me anyway, the players that I play with. But in an environment off the pitch, you've got to be the leader. You have to be the one that lays down the law internally to these players outside the manager. I'm with Amorim. I'm 100% with Amorim. Do not change your ways. Because what happens when you change your ways, Jarvis, and a player gets his own way, or a person gets their own way? They can become unmanageable.
With the little finger, they take the whole hand and arm.
You become unmanageable. You become unmanageable. Go on, do it your way. And then every way they want to do moving forward, every task has got to be done their way. They become unmanageable. You cannot have that. He is right to do what he's doing. We will lose more games than we'll win. We all know that he needs to get rid of the current squad completely. We can't do that because we don't have the finances or anything, but that's what we've got to do. So if you don't want to, If you don't want to play, and you can't, agreed, totally agree, Rushmana. You don't want to play for me in this way. You're not playing, Mr. Heaven, Mr. Yoro. You're in. Harry Maguire. People hate Harry Maguire, but he will play the way that Amorim wants him to play. Okay. And Bruno, you're gone. I don't care. You're not playing. Collie, you're in.
But that's why I think players like McTominay, for instance, and Dallow are always picked when they are at the club, because they are loyal to the manager. And as the leader, you have to depend on the players you pick. Maybe they're not the best, but at least they are loyal.
Jarvis, it's all right. It's all right. These players turn around and say no, jumping into a G-Wagon and going home to a 7-bedroom mansion. That's fine. You turn around and say no, you're out of contract in a year. Who gives a flying fuck? Who cares? They don't care.
It's like a parent. You can't say go to your room. Like the manager have to say, go to a mansion.
Yeah, that's what it is, Jarvis. You go to your mansion. Oh, have you had a good day, love? Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, what's the chef cooked up for us tonight? Yeah, I'll be in the pool. I'm just going to warm down in the pool, or I'll be in the
upper deck pool, not the lower deck pool.
Or whatever. They don't care. And United, unfortunately, facilitated this.
Yes.
Terrible. Alex Ferguson said years ago with Pogba, his fucking agent. His agent. God rest his soul, and I don't want to mention him because of, he's no longer here. But he started talking about agents back in 2011, 2012. As I said, the Obi Mikel incident, the Eden Hazard incident, all of these incidents have happened in the even in the kind of start of modernism. The Premier League era has ruined English football. Now I don't know whether people can look at Real Madrid and say they ruined football by having their Galacticos. I don't think they did. People talk about Guardiola. Guardiola, again, he was the first to play Messi as a false nine. Bullshit. Go and look at history in football. Football in general. There's been a false nine for years, got fuck all to do with Guardiola. But he's the Messiah. And all this kind of stuff. You made a great point a few weeks ago. Why are we always trying to play out from the back? What's all that about? We don't need to play out from the back. You can mix a match. We won't do it. We're just fixated with one way of playing football. It is the real killer, Jarvis. He is the real killer. Are you honestly telling me, and it's a genuine question now, that systems win football matches? Because I promise you now, Paul, they don't.
No.
Attitude wins football matches, not systems.
Stu.
Oh,
Rushmano,
yes.
the legend. Rushmano, the legend. He gifted 5 Jarvis Cocker membership, Tactical Devils membership.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Rushmano. We have Ronnie as a new member. Jules Solskjaer on United TV. We got Jules.
Yeah, very good. Jules.
Faith T comes in with the membership. Marty MUFC and DP. So, guys,
thank you, Rushmano.
Welcome to the membership club of Tactical Devils.
I am sorry for ranting, guys. I apologize. I'm going to shut up now.
No. It's good. It's good, Stu. But I just want to thank Rushmano. You're a true supporter of the channel. Legend. Thank you. Legend of the channel. We are rounding up on 2 hours 8 minutes. I think it's time to end the show. It's been a brilliant show. 98 people watching now on all platforms. It was a great show. We had Keith Hackett on. So if you didn't see the first hour, I recommend you after the show and go back and watch the first half. I saw a great comment here from Jordan. He said something about this channel deserves so much more views.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, Jordan, and for everybody, you guys who are watching in the chat, contributing. you are doing an important role for us to get out there, because we are competing against the big dogs, United Stan and all of the millions of subscribers. So YouTube just sends everybody to them. But I'm not complaining. I'm super happy that you are here helping us out. But there's one thing you can do. When I end the show, I want you to go into the non-live section and leave a comment. Tell me what you found, what you heard from Keith Hackett. What was a good thing, or your opinion about the Glazers, Ineos, how you think the future for Man United. So it's so important that you guys do this, because if we get like 10 non-live comments, it pushes the video for 2-3 days extra in the algorithm, so we get more subscribers. It gives us more traction, so it's super important. So if you can do me that favor, leave a comment in the non-live section, I will be super happy.
I'd like to echo. I just want to echo what you said, mate, because I think we're building a really, really great, knowledgeable community. We were talking about. I hope Rob Taff actually is still in the chat, because we're still watching me, because we were talking about players not signing autographs, and he made this comment about, I bet George Best didn't sign any autographs. And he's probably right. What he was doing, Rob Taff, he was in the pub making champagne kind of flute things. That's what he was doing mainly. And then you go and play football. So you're probably right. He wasn't doing it. But these rants that we go on, tonight's rants isn't to be a dick or anything like that. It's actually one of passion from me tonight, because I'm deeply affected by what's going on with our club. And it's nice that you guys join us and listen to us and allow us to say what we feel, because I just right now it's so upsetting. It's not even depressing, it's really upsetting. And to have your support for what we're trying to do here, me and Jarvis, and Jarvis once called us a while ago, and he almost named the channel it Two Football Nerds, because that's what we are. That's all we are. We're just football people. We just love football. We just,
And you can see me and Stu sitting like this when Keith Hackett is here.
It's great, And then we're talking to somebody who's been on the pitch with the legend, Diego Maradona. But Jarvis has got to ask him his question next week. Get that, make that your first question next time. And so it's quite sad, really. So I myself and Jarvis find it extremely humbling that you guys support us and tune in.
Yes.
Every time we're live, and we're really very, very grateful. Very grateful.
Yes. And all of you guys, Stephanie, Jay, Amadis Free from Tenaram, Lowly, Lola, all her comments, the Routinator, Trevor Wade with all his great questions, Elite Baller, always reporting, giving me retweets, helping the channel, Neil Davis, Rush Mano, the legend, gifting memberships, MUFC 14, Jordan Wall, Dan P, all of you are contributing. So I'm so happy. I hope that you find this as a great community, a place where you feel welcome, and that you will be back tomorrow night. We will go. I will at least do the Everton preview. I don't know, Stu, if you're available.
What are we doing? Sorry,
the Everton preview.
Yeah, I could go. Yeah, I could come on tomorrow night. I've got some time tomorrow, actually. Yeah.
So let's aim for 8-9 p.m. So stay tuned. If you haven't, press the bell and you will get a notification every time we go live, and subscribe to the channels. We will be back tomorrow. That will be a more tactical show. Let's forget about all this Glazes out and
it's going to be a tactical show.
I want to go and focus back on football as the footballing nerd I
Just
am.
a quickie, Jarvis. Two Ronnies. So if you know the two Ronnies, they were two comedians. And they were funny as anything. So that's if you're calling us the two Ronnies, which I hope you are, it's a massive thank you from me, and it's good night from him. If you know the two Ronnies, you'll know what I'm talking about, because that's what he says. I don't say good night, but what he would say is, I think Ronnie Barker would say it's good night from me, and it's good night from him to little Ronnie Corbett, and they were short, and but they were so funny, the two Ronnies. Sorry, Jarvis, I had to say.
That's okay.
That's stuff like that.
We will leave it with that, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow night preview.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, tomorrow
And
night. Yeah.
thank you everybody for watching. I hope you found the Keith Hackett interview interesting, and we will see you tomorrow night. So everybody,
Thank
have
you,
a good
guys.
one. Glaciers out, Ineos out, Debt out, boycott, protest, do whatever you can.
Yes,
Fight
please.
the man.
Big up all.
Everybody,
Big up all.
big up. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.